Hello everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here. Hopefully you can hear me just fine, not too loud. Let me know how it's going. I thought today we'd spend some time with the multis. I'm going to feed them some live baby brine shrimp and we'll answer some questions and should be cool. The colony's doing really well. I just noticed some new fry in the colony in the back there, right in the center of the screen. Those are not the new fry you see now, but there's a tiny one. Hopefully you can see it. There's a couple of really small ones in there as well. They've got a newer one down here. They've got another bunch of fry over here, and those will probably all come out and do their thing once we get to feeding them. But I didn't want to do that just yet. I'll just wait for some people to kind of build up and get into the stream, and we'll do that. So, Slav Pepe, welcome. Corey Vodkamis, welcome. Forest Oasis, hello. Scott H, hey. Jay's Crazy Obsessions, welcome too. Josh the Weirdo. Yeah, lots of snail shells in here. And indeed, Thoropod's YT. Welcome. They're definitely breeding again. I think there are... Oh, can you see the fry in the back there? I'm going to get a little closer. Yeah, you can see a couple of them right in the center of the screen. One just chased the other one. These fish are Neolamprologus multifasciatus, also known as multis. They're a type of Tanganyikan shell dwellers. So they're from Lake Tanganyika in Africa, one of the rift lakes. And they spend their entire lives around and in shells. They're very dependent on the shells. They reproduce inside the shells. They protect themselves inside the shells. In the lake, in the parts of the lake where they live, there are places where there's nothing but shells several inches deep on the bottom of the lake. And so they've evolved to just do all their things inside the shells. These shells that I have here, these are actually escargot shells, but they're similar enough in shape and size to the native shells, which are actually really thin shelled, and so they're not as durable as these, and they're also rather expensive and difficult to get. So these work actually better than their wild shells for a captive situation. I'm changing the chat so that everybody can go in there. I realized it was in slow mode, but it's not anymore. At least not for now. So here we are. And let's see, who else is in there? Kimmeline, Josh the Weirdo. Cool. Well, I wanted to answer a question from one of our Patreon supporters here. He asked a question about blue death feigning beetles, and I'm going to read that question out. He said, this is Mike Pellerin. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. And Mike says, I have a question about wild foods for blue death feigning beetles. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and have access to cactus pads and cactus pears. Would these be good foods after removing the spines and glochids? And glochids are the tiny little hairy spines. They're very, very small, but they dig into your skin. Nasty little things. What parts would I feed? The inside jelly-like parts of the petals and pears, or the whole bits cut up? Thanks, Mike. I think this is a great question. Thanks, Mike, for asking it. And I would say a couple of things. One is, if I had regular access to prickly pear cactus pears and the cactus pads, I would probably, well, I could go to the store and buy them actually, but if I could just collect them as you do, I would probably try it, because blue death feigning beetles, even though some studies have indicated that a lot of their food in the wild is dried insects, they're pretty omnivorous, and they do eat vegetable matter a lot. Mine eat a lot of carrots, they've eaten mango, they've eaten banana, beetle jelly, and it seems like using the Opuntia cactus pads and pears would be a worthwhile attempt. And I don't think it matters if you chop them up into smaller pieces with the skin, so to speak, on or without it. I would try it maybe both ways and see if they have a preference. They may or may not go for it. It's kind of hard to predict what they'll like, and sometimes they like something at one point and then they don't for a while, you know what I mean? But I think it's worth trying periodically to see if you can get them to eat it. And especially if they haven't had juicy vegetables or fruit in a while, they'll probably go after it. So I think that's a good idea to try it. Although I personally haven't tried it. I've tried a lot of different fruits and vegetables with them, and they seem to eat a lot of them, so I think it's worth it. So Forest Oasis says, I want to make a Japanese biotope tank, done a ton of research, but would love to hear of some more natives. Wow, that sounds pretty cool. Are you going to put dojo loaches in there? So Forest Oasis, the beetles are definitely breeding. The blue death feigning beetles are breeding. On my Instagram and Facebook and Patreon, I posted some pictures of those. They're cool. Ninja88 in the house. Nice to see you here. Scott H, your cows are breeding. Saw them this morning. Awesome. That is great. It doesn't take them long, does it? That's really cool. So Josh the Weirdo, speaking of blue death feigning beetles, they seem to live long in their adult form, whereas most beetles live less than a year as an adult. Are there any other beetles that live 10 plus years? Most of the desert beetles can live a long time. I don't know what the record is, but almost all of the beetles, the desert beetles, at least a lot of them, their lifespans are measured in years. So I would say things like Eleodes or Cryptoglossus or different species like that seem to do well. So there you go. All right. So, Heather Jensen, if I can find a shop that has them in stock, I'll be getting a Pac-Man frog this weekend. Awesome. Something I've often thought about getting. Okay, I'm going to put in the baby brine shrimp and we'll see the feeding frenzy ensue, hopefully. So here we go. I'm going to make sure to dump some over here where the babies are going to get it. Of course, the adults are going to get tons of them too, and that's fine. They're small enough that they all love them. And we need to do some isopod stuff. Axar97 and Slav Pepe are asking about isopods. So you guys have a request for what you want to see today? I can probably make it happen. If it's something that I have, of course. Oh, here they go. You can see the babies going after these baby brine shrimp. They're on the left. See those babies over there? Up against the background. They're really visible. I don't know, I think there are about 15 babies in here, something like that. Which is pretty cool. Maybe more, I don't know. As long as I keep them in baby brine shrimp, they seem to do really well. I also give them scuds, I give them Daphnia live, both of those are live. Give them microworms. Okay, we can definitely do Porcellio Hoffman's egg. Oh, yeah, we can do that today for sure. Maybe we'll even do Porcellio magnificus. It's been a little while since we've done an update on those. And let's see. Okay, Slav Pepe, I see what you mean. Viewers are the ISO squad. I like it. And I can try to find a rubber ducky or two. It's kind of hard to do that, but I'll do what I can. So. All right, thank you, Father Fish. And what kind of filtration am I using? In this tank, I've got a, what is this one called? I can't remember what the model number right now. It'll take me a second. I think it is a Marineland BioWheel 250B, I think is what I got on here. It's the one that has the two BioWheels, and I don't know if I can show you from where it is. It would be awkward to try to film it, and then I've got a big old filter sponge on that. I'll just take a second to look over at the filter sponge. So you can see the filter. It's got the two different filtration chambers with the two weirs releasing the water. And I've got this big old filter sponge with a coarse sponge on there to kind of help keep the sand out. It's got some algae growing on it. But yeah, it seems to work pretty well. The lighting is just LED lighting I made myself. And by getting the strip lights and winding it around an old fluorescent bulb. And I try to change out the, I rinse out either the filters, the intake sponge, or one of the other sets of sponges back there, which are the AquaClear sponges in there. There are 4 AquaClear 110 sponges in the filter, and I rinse out either the intake sponge or the two of the 4 every week when I can, pretty much every week. Sometimes I miss a week. But I do love the ISO squad. Okay, so Heather Jensen's asking for the Armadillidium orange vigors. Nice. Try to get some of those on camera. And Mickey M's in the house. Nice to see you here. Ah, yes. What do you think about those, Scott? Have you had a good experience with those? There's good and bad about them, of course. And as you notice, I played with them. I kind of followed the aquarium co-op model of supercharging the filters. What does he say? He calls it hot rodding the filters. I kind of done that based on his advice. And Miley Morky's in the house. Have I ever made a paludarium? Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long time since I made a proper paludarium, but when my kids, who are now adults, were little, I built one. I'm thinking we're talking maybe 18 years or so ago. And it was a paludarium that had platies in the water area. Pothos was the main plant. I think I may have had a couple other plants in there, but I think it was mostly pothos. And then there were anoles, and at one point there was a green tree frog in the land area. The anoles laid eggs all the time. There was a pair, a sexed pair, and they produced eggs. But at the time I didn't know a lot about what I know about now, about drainage layers and that kind of thing. And so the land area was basically an island built on gravel, and I had the filter pull water from one side. I kind of made the filter, pull water from one side and drip it back down through the gravel, percolated through the gravel, which was good for flow through the gravel, probably pretty good biological filtration. But the top just had like a layer of moss and then maybe some soil and then some bark and branches and things like that at the time. So very few of the anole eggs hatched because they'd get too wet. If I were to do it over again, I'd do it totally differently, but this was, 18 years ago. But it was pretty cool. I mean, the platies were breeding like crazy. The anoles did well in there for years, apart from the fact that their breeding wasn't very successful. And the pothos plant went nuts, and I had to cut it back regularly, so it was pretty cool. Hello, Crystal. Permanax. I just got 2 armadillidium species. I wonder if you could cover feeding and regular maintenance while you're showing some isopods off. Cool. So Scott says, I've always used biowheels. Good luck with them. Yeah, I've had pretty good luck with biowheels. I've been using them for years, and they work pretty well. And Porcellio ornatus. Can we show them? Yeah, I got some Porcellio ornatus yellow spot, or yellow dot. Armadillidium nasatum. Got about 2 months ago, and they're very slow breeders. Mine have been fast, actually. Let's take a look at those too. All right, so I'm going to set up. We've seen the fish doing their thing. They've eaten up most of the brine shrimp. I don't see very many left. I see a couple stragglers in there. Anyway, I just wanted to show off the colony kind of because they're fun. They're doing well, and it's just fun to see them do their thing. And I love multis. They're awesome. So, okay, here's a problem I've got though, folks. I've got to logistically, sorry, you're going to have to look at me for a minute while I figure this out. Sorry, I always put my finger in front of that and my special customized light fixture that everybody loves. I need to get my, what do you call it? My tripod. I need to move it because I left the tripod in the other room for my other video later. And so I'm not set up for the tripod to show the isopods off, but I will be in a second. I brought it back. So check out my ceiling for a second. It's so exciting, my bright green ceiling. I'm just lowering the tripod so that we can get a good look at the isopods, you know what I mean? Okay, so let me set it up on the tripod here, and we'll get some isopods going. See, I scared one viewer away. Maybe because they're looking at my face. I don't know. You can look at my carpet instead. There we go. And we're going to take a look at some isopods. If I forget one that somebody requested, just let me know. I'll try to make sure we get those in. Porcellio Hoffman's egg eye was the first one, right? That was requested. So let me put the light on over here. Luckily the light was already in here, so we'll have some decent light on them. I actually want to get a smaller tripod that can get closer to the subject. I think that would be cool. So it's pretty normal for no Porcellio Hoffman's egg eye to show at the top, but this is where they're all hanging out, I bet. Yeah, there's a ton right here. So let's take a good look at the Porcellio Hoffman's egg eye. Here's a pretty big male, getting big here. Nice uropod development there. I just sold off some of these recently. Let's see. There's a decently sized female there. There's another big female there. They're getting big. Oh, did I drop something? No, I'm good. Okay, so where are we, folks? Let's see. 11-year zebra isopods. Oh yeah, one of my favorites for sure. Yeah, I don't know how many are in here, but they certainly get a lot of ventilation because they do like a lot of air movement. So they're doing pretty well. Oh, sorry, Dutch Overlord, that the notification didn't come sooner. Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I want to isolate the different colors. I haven't gotten around to it, but that's a good question. I should probably do that at some point. I don't know if it has to do with if it's something that's easily isolatable or what, but yeah, there's definitely some that are kind of a browny, chocolatey color or something, in addition to the gray ones. So it's interesting at any rate. And I did show my Shelleys a minute ago. I showed them eat. I fed them some baby brine shrimp. But I can pop in there and show them for another second. There's a ton of babies in here right now. Just so you can check it out. Let's see, you can see a few babies. Oh, there's a couple babies in the shot, not a ton of them. But anyway, there you go. They've been doing pretty well. Let's keep going. So you have the same Shelleys. These are multifasciatus, Neolampologus multifasciatus. The best, or one of the best colonial isopods. Isopods. One of the best colonial shell dwellers. If you want to get them going, let's see. A room tour. I need to do a room tour. It's been a long time. The last time I did one, I had 15,000 subscribers, and that's been a while. So, and Bruno, I'm glad to see you here, and season's greetings to you as well. Oh, Aquaballs, you have the Similis as well. Okay, let me see. Checking out my orange vigors to see what. Oh, there's a ton of them eating right now. Well, I'm gonna scare them all away, huh? There's some orange vigor right there, eating some sweet potato. So orange eating orange. That's fun. Let's see. Heather Jensen, I've gotten a reputation in town of being the bug girl, and clubs keep booking me for terrarium classes. I can pawn off my excessive dairy cows on everyone else that way. Awesome. Love it. Let's see. This is poor lighting. I'm going to try to fix the lighting, people. Oh, that's a little better. You can see some of the dairy cows. Not dairy cows. There you can see some orange vigors and a couple of wild types. That they throw wild types once in a while. I haven't culled this colony for a while. So, pet the isopods. I'll need a larger species to do that. I don't think these guys would like it. So do isopods cannibalize dead individuals in their colony? I think they do. So, Aquaballs, you have lots of Tanganyika cichlids. You know, I want to get some Julitochromis again. I've had Julitochromis marlieri, but it's been a while. I'm going to do that again. And a room tour for 30K. I think a room tour for 30K. That would be a cool idea. Oh, that's so exciting. You just get to see stuff on the floor. Here, I'm going to pop open this one. You can check out the dairy cows running around while I go grab something else. We're going to do A. nasatum, I think. You can see my Armadillidium nasatum. They're doing pretty well. They started out as slow breeders, but then they just kind of blew up. I think that's normal for people to see. Oh, sorry, the lighting is just so screwy in here. Trying to get it to work. Okay, I'm scaring a bunch of the A. nasatum peach away from their sweet potato. But you can get a good look at them, hopefully. There's a lot of them in here, and they're doing pretty well. Once again, most of these are the peaches, but there are a couple of wild types, and there are also some powder blues that got in here. Darn it! I'm going to have to get those guys out. They are great, but they ruin every other culture they get into eventually if you don't get rid of them. So I'm going to have to get in there and fish out those powder blues. I didn't know they were in here, but it happens. Totally does. So I wonder if I could pet one of these, because Miley was saying, oh yeah, that's not so bad. Now it kind of worked. There you go. All right. All right. Can you selectively breed Armadillidium maculatum back to full stripes? Well, I've been culling the striped ones out of my full striped, and it is improving the quality of the culture in terms of the full stripe, so I think you can do that. All right. Yeah, Nasatum are one of those, a lot of them tend to hide from the light, but especially there are certain species that are really like that a lot. So I'm trying to catch up. I think I've lost some things. Okay. So do you keep stick insects? I don't. They're actually illegal here, unfortunately, which is quite sad because I think they're very cool, but can't really keep them, at least not without the permits, and I don't have any permits, so I don't have any stick insects. Let me see if I can show off, not show off, but just show rubber ducky or two. I've consolidated the culture into a smaller container to try to get them to do their thing, reproduce. They have not yet done so, to my knowledge. I haven't seen any. But I do see a rubber ducky up here at the top of the culture, so I'm going to pull it out and let you see. Maybe it'll even crawl around for us. Let's see. I don't remember what kind of isopods you're likely to find in Hawaii, HC Aqua. I know you've got some there, but I don't really remember what's possible. I mean, what you're likely to find there. If it's just like the normal Armadillidium vulgare and Porcellio scabber, or there's some exotic ones there. I'm pretty sure there are, but I don't really know what you got. And dairy cows, I gotta hand it to you. The dairy cows are easily one of the coolest isopods out there, and maybe my favorite too. And the spotty zebras are cool. They do look more kind of like the Armadillidium, I can never say that name, Corcyraeum or something. I can see that, yeah. I was putting them in with my morning geckos to see if I could get a breeding colony of the spotted maculatum going. So far, I think they're eating too many of them or whatever, and some of them are dying off in with the geckos, so we'll see. But yeah, the duckies are not necessarily very quick breeders. They need to be kept pretty warm. Maybe it's going to wake up and do its thing a little bit here. That's cool, it's working. And Jordan Safala, nice to see you in the house. Welcome. Crystals, pets, and plants. Can we keep the leaf bugs? I believe the leaf bugs are illegal as well. I mean, some people sell them, but I'm not going to risk that. That's scary. I'm not going to buy stuff like that. They're awesome, but yeah, I'm not going to risk it. So there are scabbers in Hawaii. I was there like a month ago. Yeah, it's been too long for me to remember the exact species that I saw there. So, okay. I think I better put this guy back before he gets too stressed out. But if you have scabbers there, you have a decent chance of being able to get some variety because they're pretty variable species. That's where we get calicos, we've got Dalmatians, we've got koi, we've got lava, lots of different color varieties of those. So that's not a bad one to go with. What have I missed? I'm pretty sure I forgot to show one of the species people asked about. I just don't remember what it was. Oh, Porcellio ornatus. And I do have those. So let's take a look at the ornatus over here. Notice I don't have quite as much ventilation for these guys. Maybe you notice, I don't know. Oh wow, I'm gonna knock everything over here. Just moving things around, sorry. Gonna take a moment, get everything settled again here with the Porcellio ornatus. Get some decent light on there, hopefully. And let's take a look. Porcellio ornatus yellow dot, courtesy of Wally of Supreme Geckos. Supreme Gecko, he sent me these. They tend to be pretty active. They remind me of dairy cows in the fact that they're active, they're big, fast, and I just pulled my microphone off. Sorry, hopefully that wasn't too loud. And let's see, I'm coming back to catch up on the chat. Aquaball's got 2 more goldfish. Ping pong goldfish. Are they the ones that are like pearl scales? Okay, these guys are going, they're doing well. I love the little yellow spots. I don't know if you can see them that well on camera. The yellow spots seem to show up pretty well in the older ones, so hopefully that helps. And giant African land snails we cannot have here, right? And they're all over Hawaii, but you can't have them. What would happen if you did not offer a calcium source to isopods? You know, that's a good question. I would be a little worried about more cannibalism because they do need calcium, but they're going to get some from their diet, obviously, even if we don't offer them supplemental calcium sources. So I'm not sure what would happen, but I'm guessing that calcium is a limiting factor, and so I really don't want to limit it too much. You know what I'm saying? I think you'll probably, my guess, this is just a guess, but you'd probably get slower breeding because it's just a resource that they need to produce their exoskeleton, and without it, they're not going to be able to produce as many, so they're going to breed slower, is my guess. Taywin's World of Reptiles, good evening. And HC Aqua, that's what I actually grew up calling them, was potato bugs. And then as I got older, oh, you know what? This is weird. This has never happened that I remember. One of these guys was biting me. I could feel it. It didn't hurt, but they're crawling all over me now. Oh, look, there's a nice spotty male. Should we get a close-up on this guy? That might be fun. You got to see him close up to see their little yellow spots well, and it's fun. I don't know if you can see that because I think the light isn't that good. There, you can see the little yellow spots on the abdomen pretty nicely now. Get a good look at it. I'm going to try something. Just a second. I'm going to use this enclosure to bring this enclosure closer. How's that? Now I can see him a little more easily. Okay, so I'm pulling back the chat, and yeah, let's see. And would Porcelia spinacornis and Scaber hybridize? They're identical in a way. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways, but I don't think they will. There's not a lot of hybridization going on. Okay, and Make It Kate, I actually started later, so I'm staying longer this time. So maybe that's a good thing. Did you ever work in a pet store? You have such broad knowledge. Let's see. I haven't worked in a pet store, but I've worked in 2 zoos. One of them was, well, they're nibbling on me. They must be hungry. I'm going to have to feed them. It kind of feels like when an ivory millipede nibbles on you, but a little bit more, a little sharper. I mean, it's not painful, but it's just a little bit sharper. So they need some protein. I need to give them some tonight. What did I feed them yesterday? Yesterday they got sweet potatoes, so they're probably wanting some protein, and that's why they're doing it. So I worked in 2 zoos, but never a pet store, and I don't remember where I was going with that. But I was answering a question, right? Let's see. Yes, the zoos helped, and I've been keeping critters for a long time now. Had my first critters when I was 4 years old and haven't really stopped. Took a couple of breaks, but I've had a lot of critters over the course of my life. And thank you. If you could have any color or pattern on isopod imaginable, what would you choose? That is a great question, but I would love a vivid blue, like a blue dream or blue velvet shrimp, like a vivid, really rich blue. I would love an isopod like that. The only isopods that are really blue that I know of are isopods infected with the ridovirus, which is not cool. So I don't think there are any that I know of that are really, really blue. And so I think I would like that. and maybe a zebra isopod, so you have the pattern in contrast, but instead of having like the dark gray color, it's blue. That's probably what I'd pick. What are some other options for food? I use bug burger and carrots. Those are great, but there are so many options. Let me pull out a couple just to show you. This is one that I use, goldfish food. Omega-1 goldfish pellets are fine, but you can use other ones too. This is a common staple I give them. Just pulling some things out of my cupboard here so you can see some of the things that I feed. Let's see. Repashy morning wood, give them that. You can see that we've got the spotty maculatum that some of us were talking about earlier on there. This is from Isopods in the Mist. Isopods, Vivariums in the Mist. This is dried mealworms. This one doesn't have a window in it, you can't see it. Dried mealworms, intended for isopods, they munch this up. Isogrub, freeze-dried minnows, they love these too. And some things that I give that are not, you don't buy them at the store. Wally of Supreme Gecko is going to send me some Supreme isopod food to try out. Yesterday I gave them organic sweet potatoes. I give them chopped carrots. I give them broccoli. I've given them apple, mango, banana, zucchini, any kind of winter squash is great. And yeah, those are some of the main foods that I give them. Dried shrimp is another one that they like. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Jordan. Those are some of the things that I give them as staples. So Sherbert, have you ever owned a skink? I have not owned a skink. I think it would be really cool to have a blue tongue or a pink tongue skink, or crocodile skinks are cool, sand skinks, some of those are just amazing. So a lot of different skinks fascinate me, but I haven't kept any. And Miley Morky, does it feel like a guppy nibbling? Kind of. It's about the same size of area that they cover, but a guppy doesn't feel sharp when it nibbles very much, and these guys feel a little bit sharper. I should feed them right now, honestly. I'm going to give them some protein right now. I've got all this food sitting here, might as well do it. I'm going to put some dried mealworms in there and a minnow or two. Maybe they'll eat for us on screen. They tend to be a little bit more like the dairy cows that way. I think Porcellio ornatus is a pretty underrated isopod in terms of activity. They do a lot, and they're voracious eaters. I'm just going to give them kind of a smorgasbord here, just dump some food in there and see what they want. There's enough of them in there that I have to put a decent amount of food in there. There, and they're already going after it. I can see a couple of them doing their thing. Should we zoom in a little bit? Maybe move over a little bit. Zoom in so that we can see them eat. Yeah, let's see what we get. It's kind of fun. All right. Fire skinks are awesome too. Yes. Let's see. So do you keep Porcellio sevilla? I don't have that species. I think they're a cool species, but since I have Porcellio hoffmannseggi, I think they're kind of similar, so I haven't ended up getting that species. I'm trying to make sure I get more variety, and they're cool though, and I know they're different from Porcellio hoffmannseggi, but they're quite similar. Max Wolfgang, the Dalmatian isopods I got from you started breeding for me, just waiting on the zebras and giant canyons now. Awesome. I'm sure it won't be too long before they get going for you. The zebras, when I first got them, they took a while to start. I got mine in July and they didn't breed till November, I think. But that's not necessarily going to happen for everybody. And the giant canyons, when I got mine, there were babies in the cup. They were monkey in the deli cup when they arrived. But you never know. I'm sure they'll all be breeding for you pretty soon. And, oh yeah, I can see crab pellets working. Organic baby food in a little dish. That's a good idea. So Crystal uses the mealworms and Slav Pepe uses the dried fish too. Cool. Miley Mork, you found out about a species of spiky isopod that is endangered. I'd love to own some if they're available. There is the St. Helena yellow spiked isopod. I don't believe any of those are available. They're extremely endangered because they mainly feed on the spores of a tree fern that is endemic to the island of St. Helena. So I don't believe they're available, and they probably wouldn't do very well in captivity, even if they were, just because of that. Their diet is very, very specialized. It's super cool, though, if that's the one you're talking about. How often do I feed the isopods Crunchwrap Supreme? It depends. I mean, in a sense, I'm feeding them all the time because I try to keep leaf litter in there all the time, and they're always nibbling on that because that is their leaf litter and the decaying wood are their main food sources. But in terms of adding other food, supplemental food, I like to feed them at least twice a week. Honestly, more often is fairly common too. But I think bare minimum twice a week. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 times a week. It's rarely more often than that. But there are times when I'll just, even though I've fed them 2 or 3 times in that week, I'll just come in and feed them again. Especially if I think they're hungry, and especially some of the hungrier isopods like the dairy cows. So fire skinks, those are beautiful skinks and they're manageable size. Those would be one I'd be interested in trying. Also the ocellated skinks, I think those are super cool. Keep communally and they give live birth. Awesome. All right. So H.C. Aqua, do you keep these isopods for any functional purpose? Yes. A lot of these isopods are great for cleaning up after other animals. Reptiles and amphibians mostly, as well as some invertebrates. But mostly reptiles and amphibians, dart frogs and lizards, snakes, they'll clean up after them. I've sold isopods to people who are cleaning up after not just dart frogs, but many different kinds of lizards, even a lot of kinds of snakes, even some very large snakes, and things like that. So they're very good for that. And they also serve as supplemental food for some of those species. And they are hungry. Even though yesterday I fed them, they're pretty hungry. And I think it's partly because this is a protein-hungry species. Most of the Spanish Porcellio species eat a lot of protein. They need a lot of protein. So it's kind of hard to keep up with them sometimes. And Kate, I agree. The colonies generally do okay when you give them the leaf litter, but when you give them the supplemental food, they really go to town. They're breeding more. And that makes sense because you're giving not only more nutrients, but a wider variety of nutrients. And the nutrients that they need to reproduce are less likely to be limiting factors as much. So, good point. So, H.Chiaku, should I throw them in with my redfoot tortoise? Wouldn't be a bad idea. They'd probably help you eat the tortoise poop and stuff like that. I know a lot of people use them as bioactive cleaners in their tortoise enclosures. And Permanax, how cold is too cold for my isopod enclosures to get? It depends on your species of isopod. Some of them start suffering when they get below the 60s, some of the tropical isopods, but some of them are actually perfectly fine at like 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've had my power go out and my temperature go down into the 50s in my house, and I didn't lose anything, not even the tropicals, but I doubt the tropicals would do well at those temperatures for a long time. I would say most of the temperate isopods, though, if your house is, are you talking about keeping them outside, or are you talking about keeping them in your house? Because there are plenty of them that will die outside in the winter in cold areas. But if you're talking about house temperatures your house is likely to reach, probably not have to worry about it a whole lot. So Heather Jensen just went to a reptile show but saw a bunch of spider ball pythons and was not thrilled about it. Saw a black and white corn snake too that was beautiful. Yeah, the whole thing about the neurological issues of the spider ball pythons, I've heard about it. I haven't looked into it a lot, but I'm just not a big fan of any kind of morph that has genes that go with it that can cause issues like that, even if, in captivity it's not going to really affect their quality of life a ton. I just don't like it myself. I'm not a huge fan of it. I have to say, to be fair, I'm not incredibly educated on that particular issue. I'm aware of it, but I don't know a ton about it. But that's just my opinion. Like, I'm not really excited about goldfish that have crazy modifications to them. With the exception of the moors. I kind of like the moors, and that's kind of hypocritical of me probably, but the ones that are really hard, it's really hard for them to move and things like that, I don't dig it. So, but a black and white corn snake, so was it aneurystic? Your wood burner. I have seen it somewhere. It was a weird place. Sorry, my daughter's asking me a question. It might be. You want to check with Mama because we're not allowed in there during Christmas. She couldn't find it.
And I have no idea where
Okay. Huh. You can use mine if you want to.
Okay, where's yours?
I think mine is around the corner in there on the shelf. Okay. Let's see. What website do you recommend to get reptiles and insects? Well, as far as insects go, Bugs in Cyberspace is one of my very favorites. I've worked with them to get bugs, and I've purchased bugs from them. We've traded bugs and everything. And Peter is amazing, and he's always treated me right. So he's not paying me to say that, but I would say he'd get a good experience there. Some other ones that have good reputations, and I've worked a lot with arachnoboards.com, but there are various sellers on there, so you just have to look up the reviews. But I've had good experiences both buying and selling bugs there. As far as getting reptiles, it depends on, I think reptiles you're more likely to do best if you don't pick a reptile site, but if you are looking for a specific species. Like in my case, when I wanted to get garter snakes, I went to Don's Garter Snakes. He's a local garter snake breeder, and I was able to pick up the snakes at a local expo. So I would say with reptiles, you want to not go so much for generalists. I mean, they exist, but rather than go for generalists, find a specific breeder of the species you want, and you're likely to do better that way. So, Miley Murky, you mean you use paper towel as a substitute leaf litter with your isopods? Oh yes, Wonderful Pet Chronicles. Squash bits are one of the best. Yep, a couple years ago we grew a ton of butternut squash in the garden, and I was giving them a lot of that, and they loved it. And Make It Kate, that is a good point too. When they're just trying to survive, they're not going to be reproducing as much, but when there's an excess of resources, they're much more likely to. Good point. So right now they're eating a smorgasbord. They're getting dried minnows, dried mealworms, and goldfish food pellets, and they seem to be pretty excited about it. And Poop Rooster's in the house. Nice. Okay, Permanex. Oh, okay, you're keeping them in your house. Armadillidium maculatum. Yeah, I wouldn't worry a lot unless your house gets super cold. If you're putting on, a coat because your house is getting cold, I think your isopods will do fine. They probably won't breed much. But if you're in the 60s Fahrenheit or warmer, you're probably fine. And yes, my wife has an off-limits Christmas room because she wants to hide the stuff from everybody, and some of the things she wants to hide are from me, so nobody can go in there in the sewing room during Christmas time. So, Jordan Safala, will you ever have your own booth at a reptile show in Southern California? I might. I have no immediate plans to do it, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to. I would like to do some more reptile shows. I had fun last time doing the reptile show here locally, and I was just sharing a table, helping out at a table, I guess you'd say. But it was fun, and I got to meet quite a few subscribers and so on, so that was fun. I would totally be interested in doing it, yeah. I'd have to make sure I had enough to, financially make it work. If I were, the amount of money I made at the last reptile show was decent, but it would, if I made that much this time, it would probably just about pay for going and coming back, and I'd maybe break even, maybe not even that, I'm not sure, with hotel and driving and all that stuff. So I don't know. I would love to do it, but I'd have to make sure I brought enough stuff to sell, a lot of stuff to sell, and until I get more permits. I have permits for a lot of the isopods I have, but I think I'd need some more just to make sure I could cover it. And hey, Don Gallagher's in the house now. My favorite isopod, if I had to pick one, and somebody said, okay, you're legally obligated to get rid of all your isopods except for one, I would be really sad because there's so many that I like, but I would probably keep dairy cows. That's about it. I think I love dairy cows. I mean, I love zebras. There's so many I love, but honestly, dairy cows, for the amount of activity level you get from them, from their size, from the fact that they're so comfortable eating and doing other things when it's fairly bright, so you can observe them well. And they breed really fast. They have a cool pattern. They're actually pretty good cleaners. I've been testing them out with one of my crested geckos, and he doesn't eat them, at least not all of them, and they do well as cleaners in there. That's probably what I'd pick. But I would be really sad, honestly, because there's so many that I like so much. Yeah, and paying for the table is another thing. The tables get expensive, it's true. So maybe what I could do, I don't know, we could work it out. We could do a meetup or something, though, if we did that. That would be cool. So it was aneurystic het ghost. Okay. Yeah, those are pretty cool. Yeah, I think dairy cows are honestly one of the best all-around isopods. I would miss zebras, though. Zebras are close, too. So a tegu enclosure. And assuming the tegu is big enough not to be interested in eating isopods, something like giant canyons might be good. I think the jury's still out on whether or not dairy cows are the best for something that big. They would certainly eat a lot, and that might be a good thing, but some people are worried they might actually nibble on your reptiles, so I don't know. I might go with giant canyons. I know people have purchased giant canyons from me to keep with tegus. So, yeah, Wonder Pet Chronicles, definitely do the dairy cows. Zebras are awesome. I love zebras. But, yeah, dairy cows are going to be a fun and different creature for you. And you're welcome, Permanex. I'm glad. The zebras should do well for you. They were one of the first fancy isopods I got. Not the first, but they were up there. About 4.5 years ago, something like that, I bought some isopods from Oren McGonigal. I don't remember if I'm saying his name right, but zebras were one of them. And all right. Yeah, that's something I want to see, how the Hoffmannsegei are protective of their babies. I've seen them hanging around their parents, but I've never noticed them actually being protective. So I probably need to observe mine a little bit more. And the axolotl's doing well. I would really like to move it to a larger tank, but it's doing well. Had the axolotl, I'm not even sure how long we've had it now. It's technically my daughter's, but I help her care for it. When we do the water changes in all the aquariums, we're of course changing that water along with it with their python. We just go through the house and do all the aquariums. So each of my daughters has their own aquarium. The youngest daughter has a 5.5 gallon with 2 endlers, blue star endlers from my tank, and a colony of snowball shrimp. And then my older daughter has an axolotl. And then my oldest son has his own Scolopendra polymorpha desert tiger centipede, which I'm taking care of for him at the moment. And then my younger son has the corn snake, which is technically his as well, but I take care of it while he's off at school. So they each have their own pet. It's kind of cool. No, well, it looks like they're really hungry. I don't know that all the isopods have found the food, but the ones that have found it are definitely digging in. So that's good. Heather, I have used the water change to water houseplants in the past, but since now everything's on a python, just because of the number of tanks we have in the house, I can't really use it that way. I wish I could because they love it, but it's good. It's great stuff for the plants. That's why I have this huge pothos that now not only goes all the way around my window, but exceeds the bounds of the windowsill and is going all over the place. It's crazy because it's in the Endler tank. And Scott H. Zebras will be my next purchase. That is an excellent choice. That would probably be my number 2. That is actually, if people come to me and say I want a pet isopod, I say dairy cows number 1 and zebras number 2. Always. Pretty much say that because I think the zebras are a little bit trickier to keep. They breed a little slower, they're a little smaller, but they're fantastically patterned. They're still fairly active in the daytime. And the fact that they roll up, I mean, that helps too. And they're super cool. You know what? I kind of want to get those guys out. Is everybody okay if I get some of my zebras out? Maybe I'll get my bigger zebra bin out and we can take a look at it. Is everybody cool with that? So LMT is asking, how old are your kids and what do they and your wife think about you having so many insects? Well, my oldest child is 20 and he is out on his own, adventuring in the world. And my youngest is 13 and the other two are in between. I've got an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old who just got her driver's license. And they're all good with the bugs. My daughter has her own isopods. I think I forgot to mention that. My youngest daughter has her own isopod colony. She's got some kind of a party mix going on. And all the kids like it. Some of them have helped me with bug presentations that I do, you know, occasionally here and there, whether it's at a university or it's at a city thing. We did a community once had me come and do one. They have helped me with it. They're all into it. They all like it. So I'm glad. My wife is not too jazzed about some of the bugs, to be honest. She's not a fan of the tailless whip scorpion. She's not a fan of the scorpions. But she's okay with most of them. She just says no roaches and no tarantulas and nothing with medically significant venom. So, yeah, I've noticed that. That's kind of why I have to help take care of stuff. Let's take a look at some zebras. Check it out. I agree. I have to help my kids take care of their creatures. I forgot to mention my older daughter has a leopard gecko. And, you know, yeah, I have to help them take care of stuff once in a while. It's true. So that's a good point. Need to build a showroom office before you outgrow your home. Yeah, I've been thinking about an off-site facility. Someday I'm going to do it when I have enough money. You know, Patreon's been helping out with Aquarium-X. If it ever gets to the point where I could actually pay the rent or the mortgage on a building, I would do it. I totally would. It's not anywhere close to that now, but... So, I like it. Make it, okay, yeah, if you think of it as your responsibility first and the kids are the backup, that's a good way to do it. So, Jeremy Young, you have zebra isopods locally? You've got the stripes like these? That's pretty cool. Where do you live? These guys are native to parts of France and Italy and so on. Yeah, I've got a lot of zebras in here, and these are not the only ones. It's just this piece of bark is the biggest piece of bark in there, and so you can see a good number of them. But we've got more, and this is only one of my zebra bins. I have 2 zebra bins, so there's a lot of them. Here's another smaller piece of cork bark, and there's a lot on that too. Make it Kate. Yes, that's probably going to come pretty soon. When the kids, because, you know, 2 of them have already moved out. One of them's back for the holidays, but that's a good point. There's going to be more room at some point because of that. Oh, look at this one. There's a little zebra that has some extra white on it. I can't focus on it for some reason. Whoa. Looks like a vanilla one almost, not quite, but it's got extra white. I've seen a few in here with extra white, and I need to go ahead and isolate them, but I haven't done that. What I really want to get, I want to get the orange zebras because I love orange isopods, and I have, you know, I don't know how many species of orange isopods I have. I've got quite a few. But I would love to have some orange zebras. I think those would look really cool. Yep. Yeah, I understand. Okay. So. Okay, if the stripes aren't as defined, they may just be Armadillidium vulgare then. Because some of them have kind of stripes. Yeah, well, more bug room, that makes sense. That's true. Definitely have more bug room that way. Let's see. I'm just going to take a peek around here, see if there's anything else we want to look at that I haven't looked at for a while. I'm going to take a peek at the whiteouts, but I'm going to close the zebra enclosure so the whiteouts don't get into it, because the whiteouts are just powder blues that are completely devoid of pigment, so they're just as pestiferous when they are in the wrong place. But I do like them. I'm going to take a peek, see how they're doing. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. Look at that color. You can see they still haven't finished that shrimp tail, which is a little bit surprising. You'd think that these guys would just scarf it down, and their sweet potato's not gone yet either. Of course, there are not as many in here as there are in some of the other enclosures yet, because this is a fairly new colony. But they're doing well. They'll eat dirt or trash instead of leaving trash around. Oh yeah, and Heather Jensen, when you get your Pac-Man frog, I'm thinking, maybe I mentioned this before, I would try something really small like a dwarf white, because I don't think the Pac-Man frog would eat it. And depending on the size of the Pac-Man frog, you might be able to get away with something bigger, but I'm thinking that might not be a bad way to go. What are the most of the isopods in the culture from? So, whoa, you mean most of the isopods that I culture, where are they from? Like which country or which breeder or what? I want to make sure I answer your question. Yeah, powder blues are not a bad idea, although their humidity, whenever I try to keep them in higher humidity, they don't do as well. I'm thinking a Pac-Man frog might need higher humidity, but let me know how that goes. I'm interested. Your Pac-Man frog won't eat? That's weird. Seems like they're always eating everything, but there must be a weird one going on. Any particular isopod requests, guys? I'm wrapping up in a few minutes here. I want to make sure if anybody has a request, I want to try to honor it. And Jordan, roughly how long did it take to establish this colony of zebras? Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by establish. I got this colony years ago, the beginning of it, but I have split this colony. This is only, like I said, one of my bins, and I've sold hundreds. I don't know how many hundreds of zebra isopods I've sold out of this culture. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but I would say they were breeding within 6 months, and then I had hundreds after not too long. So hopefully that helps. And I want to make sure I'm answering your question. I'm not sure I am. Jeremy Young, giant crickets that were introduced, gone wild, larger than your thumb. Wow. Oh, okay. Most isopods that are cultured in the U.S. They come from a lot of different places. A lot of them are European. Most of the Cubaris species in culture are from Southeast Asia, but not all of them. Many of the Porcellio, the larger Porcellio species, are from Spain. This Armadillidium zebra, maculatum zebra, these are from France and Italy. Some of the tropical species that we have are from South America or Africa or different places. Many of the ones that actually live in wild populations in the U.S. now are actually European introductions. So I would say a lot of them are from Europe. Oh, tiki theme tank, so that would be cool with the coloration. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, magic potions. Let me see if I have any left. They haven't been doing too well lately. And rubber duckies, I did show some of those. You can go back, well, one of them anyway. So somebody asked about the dream pet. Sorry, I'm trying to catch everything. LMT. Okay, reptile dream pet. Own any kind of reptile. Well, honestly, it's hard to narrow it down. It's hard to narrow it down. Sometimes I think a super dwarf reticulated python would be awesome, because they are just they're the perfect size. They don't get too big, and they have a lot of personality, and they tend to be pretty docile. Something like that, or maybe a woma, which is another type of Australian python. If I were to do a lizard, it might well be a blue-tongued skink. I would love to have a tortoise of some kind. Oh, actually, a herd of tortoises living outside. It's too cold where I live, but I'd like to live somewhere where it isn't too cold, and then have a herd of tortoises out in the backyard. That would be really, really cool. So hopefully that helps. So make it Kate. Sounds like, okay, increasing humidity, working on that. Tried some good foods. Hopefully that helps. Something that moves a lot. You could get like a big roach. How big is your Pac-Man frog, by the way, at this point? And Dawn, I'm glad it's helping you learn about isopods. I used to call them potato bugs at first, and then I'd call them pill bugs, I think, and then I started calling them, yeah, potato bugs and then pill bugs, I think is what I want to make sure I don't squish these guys when I close the door. I'm going to do some giant orange. Let's see, I have Spanish orange and I have orange lavis. I also have Porcellio magnificus, which are the giantest of the giant oranges. But, yeah, I can show, here's some, this is Porcellio lavis orange. Got a decent number of these. They don't breed as fast as the dairy cows, but they do breed pretty well. Let's see. Life in jars. You know what? That's cool. I should talk to Life in Jars if I can manage to communicate with. We recently Life in Jars, when they did a video on isopods, that actually boosted my views because I was one of the recommended ones, and so people started watching a lot of my videos on isopods right after that. I noticed. I was checking my stats, and that video was suggesting, oh look, there's an orange Dalmatian in there, just like the one that. Who did I send the Dalmatians to? I sent was it Heather? Was it yours that ended up doing that? Here's a bunch of them on here. They look cool against the charcoal. I'm going to take this orange Dalmatian and put it in with the orange Dalmatians where it belongs. Just a second while I do that. Just looking for the orange Dalmatian enclosure. There it is. And while I'm over here, I'm going to get the Porcellio magnificus enclosure because I'm pretty excited about how well these guys are breeding. So, and I need to check out Life in Jars, so I will. I haven't yet, I don't think, but I will. And we can look at the Armadillidium klugi. They're doing pretty well actually lately for me. I think I showed them recently. Oh, I just kicked something. I just have to figure out where I put them. I think I moved them to get to other things, and I got to figure out where I put them. So, those are the klugi pudding. Sorry guys, this is nuts. It must be under one of these over here. There they are. My microphone off. Here we go. All right, we're going to take a look at the Armadillidium klugi really quickly here. And let's see. So that sounds like you're doing pretty well with the humidity, Kate. There's some Armadillidium klugi, and most of them are babies, but there are a good number of them, and there are quite a few other parts of the enclosure too. They seem to love this piece of cork bark for whatever reason. Sorry I don't have more adults in there. Let's see. Okay, so it was Heather. Cool. If you keep an ant colony like Ants Canada, I have a colony there about the most rewarding experience. I have done it. I started a colony. There's just a few under this one for whatever reason. But there are a lot in the leaves too, I think. I'm going to kick around in there for a second. See what it be. Oh yeah. I see some crawling around in there. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to disturb them too much. Let's look at the Magnificus. To the left of the tub. Okay. Keeping my eyes open. Thank you. I appreciate that. I hate it when I lose one. I'll just have to keep looking. I'm moving stuff out of the way off camera here to see if I can see it. Which species was it that went down? Just help me recognize it maybe. Okay, if it landed on the lid, maybe I've got it back then. But I'm looking. Shoot. Under the tub that I put down. Okay. Oh man, I think I might have lost it. I'll just have to keep looking around. Shoot. And so how do I keep them from escaping? Usually it's not a problem escaping except for powder blues, which seem to do it rather regularly. Just make sure that the substrate and the bark and so on don't touch the sides. Like in this one, you can see that there's a sizable gap between the sides. They can't climb the smooth sides. So I don't know how powder blues do it. They teleport, but mostly that's fine. Works okay. And okay. So it's a clue guy. Okay. I'll keep my eyes open. All right. Everybody's saying it's under this one. Hey, we got him. There he is. Awesome. Sorry, I kind of yelled there. Didn't mean to. Oh, sorry, buddy. Okay. I think no harm done. Thank you, everybody. Got him back. I wasn't understanding what everybody's saying. Sorry, it took me a minute to figure that one out. But we got him back, so I appreciate everybody's help there. Now we're going to take a look at the... oh, there's some babies under this. This is Armadillidium clue guy. Clue guy. Armadillidium clue guy. What am I saying? Porcellio magnificus. Here's looks like... I think that's a female. Because they have fairly long uropods, but at that size, I would expect longer uropods if it were a male. And it's a little bit broader in body. I really want to see if I can get a good look at the leaf litter, because when I go in this corner, I mean, it's nuts. The babies that I see in there, they're everywhere. There are so many babies. You can see a good number of them, but you can't really, doesn't really do justice to it. Looks like they're nibbling on the sweet potato I put in there yesterday. And I do have some big males in here. It's fairly big. I mean, I don't think any of the males in here honestly have reached their full size yet, but there's some pretty big ones in here. I just don't know where they're hanging out at the moment. They are pretty reclusive compared to some of my other isopods. Oop, just saw one. That's definitely a male, but not full grown. Not a full grown specimen. You can't get a good look at it there. So that'll grow more, but it's fairly sizable. And there's no question at all with those uropods. That is definitely a male. I love the fact that they have a very thin skirt around them. It's pretty cool. Um, let's see. Jeremy Morrill, have you showed your high yellow Bulgaria project yet? I haven't. You know what? I'm actually going to show that in my next big video. Or one of my very next videos that's coming up. I'm going to show those, and I'm going to play with those with the macro lens. So cool. So yeah, I might be able to do an ant colony sometime in the future if I can get my wife to agree to it. She wasn't a huge fan of having ants in the house, but she let me do it. I did it for about 3 years. It's about how long my colony lasted. And I was just kind of making it up as I went along. This was kind of, there wasn't as much information out as there is now. So, all right, well, I'm realizing that I have gone way over time, but I don't really mind. But I do need to get to some other things. So for Jeremy Morel, just keep your eyes open for my next video. It's going to have my Armadillidium Bulgaria high yellow project under a macro lens. And I better go, but everybody have a great evening, and those of you who are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and all that to everyone. And I'll catch you soon. Check out my next video on Friday.